One of the biggest things I do tell my seniors is that the most important stuff that people don't think about is all the paperwork. Having a place for family to find where are all the accounts, all the insurance policies, how do they pay for everything, what are all the usernames, what are all the passwords, do you have a safe deposit box, where it is, having a list someplace that has that so that when a family member, if they have a stroke, a heart attack, let's say that they cannot communicate, or unfortunately, if the person dies, you can't communicate with that person, but having something, some place that is all together for the paperwork, for the family to go to understand.
Today's episode is titled From Overwhelm to Order, and I'm thrilled to introduce my guest, Jennise Mendoza, founder of Rescue Me Organizing. Jennise has built her career around helping to navigate life transitions, whether it's downsizing, moving into senior living, or simply creating systems that bring peace of mind to an otherwise chaotic environment and season in life. Jennise, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Jennise, you and I know a bit about each other, and we're no strangers to our line of work. But I would love if you can just share your story with our audience with what inspired you to start Rescue Me Organizing.
I started Rescue Me Organizer because I was a new mom. So I had two young children, and I was in the corporate world, insurance to be specific. And I just wanted to try something that was less stressful, something that wasn't taking so much of my time. And it was kind of funny because some people had told me to become a professional organizer, and I was like, nobody hires somebody for that. But they do. And it's really funny because my first client was the company that I left. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They said that they had a project they had been wanting me to work on for a long time, but knew I couldn't because of my workload. So yeah.
Very nice. Well, that was a,
Yeah.
a great kind of shoe in, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I speak with people all the time about moving, downsizing, organizing, decluttering, overwhelm, and I feel like sometimes there's a misunderstanding or even misconception of what really organizing is. A lot of people feel like it's tidying up, but I know your work goes way beyond that. How would you describe a little bit more about your philosophy and your process?
Um, I first of all tell people that being organized doesn't mean it has to be like an HGTV show, you know? We don't live that way. So why would you expect it to be that way? And then I also tell people that you need to come up with a system that works for you. Um, because so many people see somebody else's system, they try to take over that system, but that's not their personality. And so it has to be something simple and easy for them to do. I work with a lot of seniors, I work with a lot of people that have disabilities. So I have to come up with something that works for them, especially if somebody has like ADD. Um, Dresser drawers do not work for them. And so sometimes it's just coming up with bins and just saying your tops go in there. And they think, is that okay? It's like, well, not many people are going to be in your bedroom and know that that's how you do it. So, it's really understanding that you can have something so simple and also understanding what to keep and not keep. A lot of people always say to me, oh, they think I'm going to come in and tell them they have to get rid of everything. And I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. And some people are like, well, you're going to tell me to get rid of all my love letters from my husband when we first met. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell you to do that either. So what I just do is come up with systems, put the likes together is mainly what I say. Realize what to hold on to and what not to hold on to. And if you have sentimental stuff, I always tell people I refer to it as a treasure box, where off the theory, one man's trash is another man's treasures. And I say that for all that stuff that people would consider, quote, trash, but you want to keep, let's say it's, I'm old school. So let's say it's a concert ticket or something like that, or a letter that you received, or something that is sentimental to you, but maybe somebody else would consider that trash. You put it into what I refer to a treasure box, which I say could be any size from a shoe box up to like a bigger thing. And you just put it all your little treasures in there. And then that way it's all together. And when you have one of those sentimental moments, you can open up your treasure box and go through it. But plus, it also has a place to go because otherwise people just kind of throw it throughout the house. This way you have all your treasures together.
That's great. There's a lot of pieces that you just talked about that I'd love to touch on. For one, you are working with people's kind of their style of organizing, right? That's what I'm hearing you say.
Hmm.
An example, yesterday, a colleague and I were talking about our office spaces, and I'm a mobile person with my work, and I have my office space at home, and I have buildings that I help to oversee. And when I go into those buildings, I may or may not have a space, which can be for me really overwhelming if I personally walk in somebody else's space and I'm sharing that with them and it's really disorganized and cluttered. For me, that feels like I can't work and I really can't have a clear mindset. And then I look at some of my colleagues and I walk in their office and I have office envy because it's super organized, and it just makes me think like, wow, you must get a lot done. And we kind of laugh about how some people have just chaos, but it's organized chaos to them. I mean, they know what's in these piles, and even if they're spread all over the place, they know where it's at. So being really clean and tidy like myself, that just probably wouldn't work for them, and it wouldn't last if we try to make it work for them. So I really like
Correct.
that you were helping them to embrace a more organized way of living, but it's in a way it works for them. And I think that's a really big component to it actually sticking, right?
Yeah, I always tell the story of a woman that I shared an office with, and it was really kind of funny because I had my place, my desk area nice and organized, and she was a paper person and she loves paper. And she jokes that the most organized she ever was when she had to share an office with me. But I always remember when we had our own separate offices, and then I would go into her office looking for something and I couldn't find it on my computer. And I would ask her, and she'd have literally piles of paper all over her desk. And then I'd ask her for something, and then she'd go to one random pile, halfway down the pile, pull out the piece of paper with the information. And I'd always be amazed thinking, how can you find anything? But
Right.
that's how her mind worked. And she was a fabulous employee. I mean, but it was just, she worked better in chaos. And so it's understanding, okay, if that works for somebody, let it be.
Yeah. And this is more so going towards like our mental health with this, right? Because I know
Yeah. Hmm.
um organizing and being able to kind of filter through the things that really mean something to us versus those that things that are just truly it's just garbage that we're clinging on to for no reason. This can impact our mental health, and that's what we see a lot in seniors. You've got a lifetime of memories and experiences and gifts and all these things that are handed down. It can be really hard for them to get rid of. But then, if you think about when it comes time for them to downsize or make a move, it now transfers from them to being a familial obligation and responsibility to help handle these things. And that can be really stressful for adult children who are trying to assist their parents in some kind of transition. Can we speak a little bit into that? I myself am about to face this part of my journey, and I feel like it's going to be a daunting task to go over my parents' belongings and just a lifetime of photos and albums and just records and all these things that are going to get handed down at some point. How do we help um, our adult children with organizing, and also the parents with understanding that we are not just doing this for us, but we're doing it for our children too?
One of the things I first want to touch on is a long time ago, a client of mine, she was in her 90s, and she was saying when I was working with her, and I had started off as being an organizer, and she said, "You spend your life collecting all this stuff to show the story of what success you've made here on earth." And now she's like, now I've come to this point in my life that I have to get rid of 90% of it because I'm going into a senior housing place. And so it's understanding that, telling them that their story is still there. It's just being able to share it with other people, share it with the family, and all that stuff. And that a lot of people get upset because they think all their stuff is going to be put into the trash. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of letting people know, no, it doesn't have to go into the trash. We can go ahead, find a new home for it, is the way that I put it.
Mhm.
Understanding about all the various nonprofits that are out there, I mean, so many wonderful nonprofits. I mean, you got Salvation Army, Goodwill, St. Vincent de Paul, Savers has now come out. You've got American Cancer Society, Habitat for Humanity. You've got animal shelters. You've got human shelters. You've got Friends of the Library. I mean, we have Rasputin, that for music and records and stuff like that. Understanding all that, pictures, understanding that, okay, you may in this day and age get rid of, quote, the pictures, but you may be able to put it on digital,
Yeah.
understanding, and also going through and being like talking about it, having them tell their story. That's the biggest thing of having people release, is telling the story. For families, though, the dynamics can be very different. You've got to consider any siblings that are involved. Do the siblings get along? Is everyone on the same page? You're always going to have, a lot of times you have one family member that's like, okay, mom or dad needs to go into a senior housing facility. And the other one's like, no, they're not, and you've got somebody who wants to keep the house and somebody who says, no, we can't afford to keep the house. I remember when I first started off, I listened to two ladies in their, what were they? I think they were in their 60s or something like that. And I was helping them clear out the house that they had grown up in. And the two ladies were literally arguing over a Barbie doll from their childhood. And I realized it had nothing to do with the Barbie doll. It was just past stuff that they were, doing. So I'm saying that there's a lot of dynamics. It's the parents that you have to deal with, it's the siblings, and it's also the role changing.
Mm.
That is the biggest, I think, problem that I see is the parents are like, you are still my child. I am your mother. I am your father. I am still, and it's understanding the different roles people are taking on. And then that also happens with the siblings as well. So it's not so simple as just saying, just spend a small time going through all that. It's understanding the whole dynamics that go on there. Then when it goes to actually sorting through everything, I tell people, don't do it all in one big day. Take it as more of a piecemeal type thing. You can get more done in 1 hour than what you can in 5 hours. Normally, in the 5 hours, you spend 4 hours complaining and then 1 hour actually doing something. And I give the example of when people look at their garage and they open up their garage door and the garage door is all filled and they're like, I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to really do this. I got it. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, I'm going to have a big breakfast. So I have energy to tackle this garage door. So then they eat their breakfast. Then they decide to call everybody on the moon that they haven't talked to for a long time. And by the end, it's 4 o'clock and they haven't even tackled the garage. And then they just, they complain about it. So I always say, take it when you're actually working on the project, take it in small bits. It's okay. Work for an hour, take a half an hour break, work for an hour, take a half an hour break, and also work the rooms, is what I say. So don't look at the whole big house, focus on one room, work that room a little bit at a time until that's done, and then work on the next room. Because when you start getting overwhelmed, you can go back to the room that you worked on and be like, wait, I got this. If I did this, I can do this. So, yeah, because it's a mind game too, going through everything.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I didn't even take into consideration the family dynamics and the battle to maintain your role in your family. And that is huge. And it really is, as I reflect on our residents and their families, even your own personal life. It really is trying to maintain your position and status in your family. I'm the authoritarian, I'm the person in charge, or I should have this privilege because I'm the oldest sibling. That can be really challenging. As we're talking about kind of taking one thing at a time, really going slow with it, just having some kind of pace with this. What would you say to families who are all dispersed and they're maybe not even in the same state? If you have to go travel to help a parent, that luxury of time may not be on your side. Is there any kind of um, tip that you can give to families when that support is really hard to offer and you're limited with it?
That is a big challenge for people, especially here in California, because many seniors still live in California, but their adult children have moved out of state. And then sometimes work doesn't allow them to travel as much to go visit and help with it. And that's when people will hire me as a professional organizer to work with the senior to help get that done, get the process going and everything. The great thing is we have technology, so you can FaceTime. And I know we did this in my family where we did FaceTime and my dad was a painter. And so my sister went through the house and we FaceTime. And then my mom's still alive, but we put on the back of the painting who wanted which painting so that we all knew. And so that's one way of doing it is FaceTiming, putting things that you want. A lot of people in all reality don't want that much stuff because they already have their own stuff. And there's specific things that they will say that they want. And it's letting people know because that's when seniors are like, oh, it's all going to just go to the trash. And it's saying, no, there's wonderful nonprofits out there that you can go ahead and donate to, and somebody else can reuse and appreciate it and stuff versus sitting at the home and collecting dust.
Yeah. And that's such a peace of mind, right? To know that your beloved items that have such cherished memories are not going to go just straight to the garbage. They'll still be honored by being passed down to somebody who will care for them. What would you say, Jennise, is the most common reason a senior or their family member reaches out to you? Is it for downsizing? Is it to transition, into senior living? Is it paperwork overwhelm, a loss of a loved one, and all of a sudden there's just this stuff left behind that they need to filter through? What is that?
All the above. So there are some people, I learned about the 5 stages of aging, the self-sufficiency, interdependency, dependency, crisis management, end of life. And I've learned through that, through many of my clients, I may work with them during the self-sufficiency stage where they're independent, but they need help kind of downsizing. Maybe they're going from retirement to, from work to retirement. And so that's a different lifestyle, getting rid of some things, simplifying. Some people get tired of having the house that they raised the children in. They want to go into a smaller home. Then they go from the smaller home into a senior living place, and they go from a senior living place into a skilled nursing facility. And through each of those steps, I will be there with them. Some seniors, there's a lot of people that don't want their family involved and they like me being a third party involved, especially when it comes to paperwork. They don't qualify to have a power of attorney come over, but they need help staying on top of all their paperwork. I've been called in to do that. And some people call me more as an like a business manager is one of my clients puts it, that I help her with her mail and make sure everything is paid and all that stuff. And then going all the way to the end of life, whether a person has lost a loved one or if somebody has lost a spouse or whatever it is, helping them sort through, get rid of that. Especially the family home is very overwhelming. I mean, how many times I hear adult children, they're like, it took me a year or 2 years to get the house on the market. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that hard. Because a lot of things also people don't understand when they go through things is they don't understand not only donations, but they don't understand what e-waste is, which is electrical, anything that requires electricity. And they don't understand household hazardous waste. So a lot of people don't even realize like perfume and nail polish is hazardous waste and how to properly dispose of that.
Oh, that's interesting. Not something we
Yeah,
think
so
about.
I'm a resource. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Now, from what you're saying, it sounds like you probably partner with real estate agents and movers often if you're helping with the decluttering and organizing. Is that so?
Yeah, I do work with a lot of realtors, especially when it's trying to put the house on the market. So that is when I just help the family pick the key items that they want to keep, and then I
Okay.
clear out the rest of the house. Yeah.
Great, great. And do you know if in other areas, because this obviously we're speaking to the nationwide audience, are there other states that you're familiar with that have downsizers and real estate agents working together to hopefully better serve their clients?
Oh, professional organizers are throughout the United States. So, I mean, you can look and find a professional organizer or concierge type service is what some people will describe themselves as. But yeah, and there is an organization, national organization of professional organizers that people can also look for an organizer that way.
Fantastic. I know this is such a need for most seniors and families. So I think that's really important to be able to have these resources. You I know we touched on this a little bit, but can we talk a little bit more about the health and safety of seniors? How can clutter and disorganization really impact a senior's health and possibly their safety?
Yeah. So I also do get calls because, especially when somebody moves into a senior housing place, there are rules and regulations, and there is the fire safety concerns. So people will ask me to come in, declutter, and come up with systems for that person so that they can safely live in their home. And I do get referrals also from case managers because let's say if somebody had a stroke, a heart attack, something where they were hospitalized and then they're coming home, they need to make room for the hospital bed, for the Hoyer lift, whatever, all the medical equipment that comes in. And so it's a matter of clearing out the space and making room for all of that for this new stage of their life.
Yeah, and that's a big change, right? Because you're going from, again, like a home that it could be, 2,000 to 5,000 square feet to maybe at most a couple hundred square feet, most likely. So there's a lot.
Yeah.
And picking the things that really going to matter and the things that are not going to be a hazard that will complement your surroundings and the limited space that you have. I think that's really important. Do you find that during this transition that the family members have a sense of feeling guilty of getting rid of their parents' belongings? Even if it's going to something with a good cause, a charity or whatnot. Do you ever deal with that?
Uh, Normally, no. If the family member feels guilty, they keep it themselves. Most of the family members are just ecstatic to get rid of a lot of stuff that they're like, oh, I haven't liked that for a long time. So, yeah, a lot of I do hear people sit there and say that they don't like giving it to the nonprofits because they're not sure that people will appreciate it enough. And that's when I always say, well, see if there's a family member or friend that likes it, or if somebody comes over and says, I really like that, then go ahead and do it. Give it to that person. But for the most part, not too many family members are too upset about getting rid of the stuff. Granted, most of the time when I come in, it's already kind of a crisis that is going on, and everybody is at their wits' end too. So I think that that might be the driving
You're just
factor, I
coming
guess.
in and literally rescuing everybody, hence the name, right? I love that. Now I think,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We've worked with professionals like yourself, even you in our communities. There's such a big help with families, with the our future resident, even existing residents can use your service, and it's just a tremendous relief for them. Truly, it is. Is there ways that other professionals who maybe have seniors as clients that they can reach out to someone like yourself, or even think of, hey, here's some signals that my client could use an organizer to help them with whether they're in their home or a senior living community.
Uh, if you have somebody that is complaining that they feel overwhelmed, then I would say it's okay to ask for help. I think
Mhm.
as a society, though, a lot of people are ashamed to ask for help. And a lot of times people are like, you can do it on your own. You can do it. You can do it. But I think that we need to kind of go away from that and say it's okay to get help. And so when somebody
Absolutely.
starts signaling that they're overwhelmed with their mail, that they're overwhelmed with, they can't find anything, then say, hey, maybe you should hire an outside person like an organizer that can help you stay on top of everything. And I just find it interesting because isn't there that saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and
Yes.
why we think that it only applies that time in our life. I'm like,
That is
no, we need
true.
help.
I think it just takes a village, right? Regardless of where we're at in life.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people always feel like ashamed. Yeah, why are we ashamed of that, you know? Oh, and then everybody always thinks it cracks me up because so many people are like, "Am I your worst case?" I'm like, "No. My worst clients are
There's
my
almost no
family."
shame in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So people are like, yeah, they think, "Am I the worst case?" You know, "Are you gonna judge me for what you find out about me?" No, I'm not
No.
going to. You
Yeah.
know? So there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of trying to convince somebody, because if you think about it, when you have somebody like me come into a person's life, it's very, very personal. It's very
Yeah.
and people are like, everyone judges nowadays. This person's going to find out all of my dark secrets, all my cobwebs they're going to see, and they're going to judge me. And it's like, if you ask for help, I'm the last thing I'm going to do is judge you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think that's a good point to make. I know you, and I know that when I come and meet with you for whatever the reason is, I never feel that I'm in a place of judgment. I feel like I'm in a safe space. You just have this aura about you. And I think that's important for
Thanks.
our audience to think about, right? It's if you're getting help, you need to get help from someone who you feel safe with, who you feel you can trust and connect with. You don't just go look on the ads or Google and find a company, a random company, and just hire them. I think you should actually go through the process of interviewing them, and I'm sure you can attest to that in your own experience. And you want this to work for both of you, for the client and for you as well. I'm sure.
Yeah, which is funny because so when I work with a client, I offer a free initial consultation. And to be honest, it's really to test each other out to see if our personalities get along, if they feel comfortable with me, because it is going to be a very intimate journey that we're going to be on. So I need to know that they feel comfortable with me and I feel like I would be a good fit for them. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you definitely are, like you said, you're getting into the nitty gritty of their life. You're going to know all of their secrets. And so, yeah, we want to know about each other a little bit and feel very comfortable with each other. I'm wondering, Jennise, can you walk us through what does it look like if somebody calls you, you go through that initial stage of interviewing each other and the consultation. You decide that you both decide, yes, let's work together and move forward. Kind of walk me through that process of you're now with your new client and you're there to serve them and help them. So from start to finish.
So it depends. So if it's a person that is like, okay, I just need to downsize, then it's going through the rooms and figuring that out. I'll meet with the person. They'll show me what their goal is, what they want to work on, and then we'll work together. And when I work with my clients, I work in 2 to 4 hour intervals, two being the minimum, four being the maximum, because people become mentally exhausted. A lot of people think it has to deal with age. It has nothing to do with age. It's just that it's mentally exhausting because they have to make decisions the whole time. So I will work with people that way. If it's a house clean out, meaning that I'm working with a realtor and they want to put the house on the market, I'll meet with the family. I'll have them pick out what items that they want to keep, work with them on that, and then I'll clear out the rest of the house. That's another job that I do. And then from the business manager aspect, it's a matter of meeting with the person, understanding what their system is, and then trying to keep up on that system. So I'll meet with that person maybe weekly or biweekly and help them go through their mail and help them sort through their paperwork, make sure that all of their statements make sense and everything, put everything in order, and have it so that they can live independently. So there's three different ways of handling it.
The thing that I'm hearing that's kind of consistent through these different methods is that you're partnering and working together in this.
Yes. Yeah. Because I want the person to know I'm not coming over to take over their life. You know, that's the biggest challenge for seniors is they feel that so many people, just because they walk slower or it's not just seniors, anybody who has a disability as well, I should say, or going through a health issue. If you start walking slower, if you start moving slower, you can't do things as fast as what everybody in general society are doing. They feel kind of discarded, pushed aside, or whatever. And I want them to know that I am listening to them. I'm not going to come over and take over their life. I'm just here just to be the tool so that they can achieve the goal that they want to achieve.
I like that. Be the tool. You are the tool. That's wonderful. Can you give our audience, before we conclude this episode, a few tips or strategies that families can use with starting to make their life a little bit easier, a little bit more organized, and helping their loved one?
One of the biggest things I do tell my seniors is that there's the stuff, which family can handle the stuff, the clothing, the records, the cups and all that. There's that stuff family can handle. But the most important stuff that people don't think about is all the paperwork. And they don't think about having a place for family to find where are all the accounts, all the insurance policies, how do they pay for everything, what are all the usernames, what are all the passwords, do you have a safe deposit box, where it is, having a list someplace that has that, so that when a family member, if they have a stroke, a heart attack, let's say that they cannot communicate, or unfortunately, if the person dies, you can't communicate with that person, but having something, some place that is all together for the paperwork, for the family to go to understand. All the other stuff, that's just stuff. Family can figure that out, what they're going to do with that. But the most important stuff that people don't think about is all of the paperwork. Some people use paperwork, some people put everything on the computer, but understanding what system that they use and how they pay for it, because it's very difficult to get information on anybody's account if they're not active there to answer the questions. The financial institutions are like, I won't deal with you. So if you can get all that stuff into place, that will be very helpful, because it's very, very difficult to talk to somebody who's in a coma or passed away. I know some people say that they have special skills, but yeah.
I was going to say, and that's not just difficult. That's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just say that's the number one thing because I
Yeah,
have had
absolutely.
families call me in to help them because they get so frustrated to figure out what everything is, where everything is. If somebody has a homeowner's insurance policy, if the person has passed away and you don't know if they pay monthly, semi-annually, annually, the insurance company won't even tell you if the policy's paid or not paid. So if
Wow.
the person writes that stuff down, then at least they can have it up to date, and then let the people know where it is. If you don't want to share it immediately with them, let them know where you're storing this special stuff. Yeah.
Could you give this to a fiduciary if you have one, or someone who's your power of attorney, or is that a possibility?
Yeah. Yeah. You can definitely. And in fact, I tell some people, like, if you have a lockbox, if you have a safe, maybe put it in there. If you have a safe
As
deposit
long as
box,
somebody
you can
has
put
the
it in there.
code.
Yes. Yeah, well, yes, you have to share the code. That is
Yeah.
true. Or,
Or else we're into
or
another problem.
yeah, it was so funny. I remember when my dad was alive and he was saying, "Oh, I have a safe deposit box." And I was like, "Okay, Dad, we need to have a meeting." And he's like, "I told you all this information." I was like, "Yeah, you told me you have a safe deposit box. Where is it? What, at the bank? Which bank?" And it's like he didn't even think about some of the things that he had told me. And I was like, "There's a large gap in this information. Like, okay, it's on the computer. What's your username and password?" So
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's
And
interesting.
this is really important, and it's not just for our elderly parents. This is for us too. We need this. It's so funny that you mentioned this. I'm actually about to go visit my father, who's out of state, and I've literally created a document that has all of these things that you just mentioned. And I thought, I don't just need this for my father. I need this for myself and my spouse. So we're going to take time this weekend to fill this out. And it means very timely. It's so important that we all have access to and have this information down, but also have access to it.
Well, it's funny. So I'm an empty nester. So I have two kids in college, and I never thought about it. My kids need to have a power of attorney and medical power of attorney, and probably should have a will too. And people are saying they're young, they shouldn't do that, but they're in college and they make stupid decisions. So if they end up in the hospital, which thankfully that hasn't
Yeah.
happened, but I've heard other parents say this, the hospital won't share any information. So as much as what everybody always thinks that this only applies to older people, it doesn't. It applies to everybody. I mean, just think about 9/11. Those people took off in a plane and never made it home, you know? Did they have all that paperwork together? I don't know. So, I mean, as much as what people would like to say, oh, this is only for older adults, it's actually for anybody who's 18 and older.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Very, very important takeaway. So thank you so much for sharing that. Jennise, I feel like we could talk forever about organizing, which is just something I absolutely love. So thank you so much for being here, for being such a good part of our community and helping our seniors, their families. And we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.